Hello and welcome to the premiere episode of the Nerd Ninja Horror Show. My name is Freddy Ruiz, along with my terrifying co-host Ash Von Horror, and we are going to walk you through everything gruesome, graphic, gory, and ghostly in the horror genre.
Today, we are going to look at what horror gems are coming out of the Sundance Film Festival, which every year promises to launch a horde of horror movies. So, let's get right to it. Freddy, start us out. Anything gruesome catch your eye in the Sundance lineup?
Our first Sundance film we'll be talking about is The Lesson, written and directed by Ruth Platt. This is her first feature film as she comes from an acting background. Interestingly enough, from the film The Pianist. The story for The Lesson follows Finn, a young boy in a nice suburban neighborhood who seems to coast through life with little emotion due to the absence of strong parental figures in his life, turning him into a delinquent. He finally pushes his teacher, Mr. Gale, over the edge. This causes him to kidnap Finn and his friend and teach them a lesson through pain. It's been described as part societal commentary and part torture porn, but it's said the parts are well balanced by Platt, and what we get is an artistic horror commentary. Now, personally, for me, the thing that I really liked about this whole premise is it reminded me a lot of Mark L. Lester's Class of 1984, which we have horror vet Roddy McDowall from Fright Night. He plays a teacher who's finally pushed over the edge so much that he takes a gun to his class and forces them to learn and teach them as he's doing that. So this is kind of something I've always wanted to see for a long time, ever since that scene in that movie. And I really wanted it to be fleshed out into a full feature just because, like, I have a lot of friends who are teachers. I know a lot of people who have to deal with that. Even myself have had to teach some film classes like that before. So it's like a little nice nudge to, hey, you're a teacher. These kids are little demons. Let's mess with them. What'd you think, Ash?
I'm wondering if it will fit into the same category, since I consider it like a revenge type film. So would it fit into the same category as Last House on the Left? What's the other one? Like all the revenge type horror films that we have out there.
I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, I Spit on Your Grave was what I was thinking of. So I'm wondering if it's the same genre as those films, or if it will fit into the same category as Eli's Roth's with Hostel and all those other types of films. From what I read about it, it seems like it might fit perfectly in between both categories, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, definitely get the vibe of a revenge film on that. And I've also heard a lot about it's not just about the teacher, in a sense, having to have that revenge to teach the class and everything like that, or the kid, I should say. But it's also about, the kid himself not having too many moral boundaries and stuff like that. His parents weren't there, as I said in the description. So he's kind of trying to figure out himself, and I think we've all kind of been in that teenage age where we kind of go rebellious and a little crazy. And so he just takes it a little step further and finally pushes this teacher over the edge. And so that was one of the things that I thought was really cool was, like I said, I wanted that concept from the teacher teaching the class with the gun. You're getting both sides in this sense. So you get the side of the teacher fed up with all the crap, that he's getting, and you get the kid lashing out on society. So, I don't know. I'm really interested to see how it's played out. I mean, you saw the trailer.
Yes,
yeah, we both saw the trailer. That was some pretty intense stuff.
Yeah.
What'd you think from the trailer, Ash?
What I was going to ask is, like, since you said torture porn, do you think we're going to get a whole lot of gore like we normally do with torture porn films, or do you think they might kind of hold it back and keep it more on, like, the psychological levels?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. Like I said, the people that come out of Sundance watching it, they're like talking about it being torture porn in a sense. But I would almost think it's more along the lines of that scene from Reservoir Dogs, if you think about it, where Mr. Blonde is torturing that guy. Yeah. Because in the trailer we saw, the kid's face looks terrified. He's screaming bloody murder. He's got blood all over him. And the teacher, that was some of the best acting, like crazed teacher thing I've ever heard.
Totally snapped.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like we're going to get a little... It's not going to be over the top extreme, but it's going to be just the right amount for what it's called for in the script and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's not just complete torture porn, because like you were mentioning some films like Hostel and stuff like that. It's like those tend to go over the top, kind of grindhouse. This one seems like almost more of an art film, almost like what I would call, a lot of people argue with me on this, but Cannibal Holocaust. I feel like Deodato's Cannibal Holocaust is more of an art film in a sense than the crazy rape, torture, porn film, found footage thing that people always market as, just because, most people who look at the cover and the idea behind it, they're like, oh, this is just one of those dirty, nasty movies. We don't want
Yeah.
anything to do with this. But this one, I think, has some depth to it. And the fact that this is Ruth Platt came from The Pianist of all movies as an actress. So that was just a really strange turn of events to me. It made me think she wrote it too, so it makes me wonder where she got the idea from this. Did she know some people like maybe that had some problems with kids? Maybe she had problems with her kids. No one has really said anything about it or where she's got the idea from. There's not too much known about this one other than I remember you even said the trailer was hard to find.
It was very, very hard to find. A lot of Googling.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, just to get the information we got out of Sundance and, scouring the internet at this point, it's been really crazy. But
Yeah.
like I said, I'm real hopeful for this movie because it's a concept I've wanted to see ever since I saw that scene in 1984. Have you ever seen that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Class of 1984. It's kind of very reminiscent of this one in itself in that it is basically a bunch of kids that have just gone way past crazy. They're selling drugs like they're Scarface gangs and stuff like that. And the teachers are all living in fear of the kids. The kids do whatever they want. Granted, there are some kids who want to learn. They want to, have something to do with the school and stuff like that. But you get these other guys who are just like murdering kids in the hallways. They're selling the worst kind of drugs. Like I said, Scarface, they're selling coke and stuff like that. And it just gets to the point where, Roddy McDowall, one of my favorite actors, by the way, rest in peace, like I said, from Fright Night, Peter Vincent, he just delivers one of the best performances. So if if the actor playing the teacher in The Lesson can give as good of a performance as he did in, as Roddy McDowall did in the Class of 1984, I think we got something really big here.
Do you think the film's going to get picked up by a distributor or anybody?
This is kind of one of those movies I feel like is going to go either like IFC will probably pick it up, and at that point we'll get like Scream Factory has the whole deal with IFC that they'll distribute all their movies to DVD or Blu-ray. But I mean, I think we could get like an art house run on this, like so maybe the Angelica, maybe Alamo Drafthouse might pick it up. I know Drafthouse actually picks up some of the crazier films from that time. So I don't know. Like, I really hope it gets a pretty good distribution on it. But I think what's really going to push it is Ruth Platt's name. Because, and that's the other thing, too, with her being an actress. She's got everything she needs to put those characters in this insane situation and ground it. So I think that's really going to be what pushes the distribution on this movie, too.
I hope so.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome movie. And like I said,
This fits more into the genre of horror that I watch.
Yeah, kind of thriller, right?
Well, like the whole because it does have the word torture porn in it, and a lot of the horror movies I watch, when you look up torture porn, they're really hard to find, and this one on its own was really hard to find. So like it fits into the same things that I watch because I like the word torture porn. So like,
right.
And the whole idea of someone finally being on the brink and just can't take it no more, and it actually shows them just completely just meltdown kind of interests me, because I think most people can relate to that, where they get pushed to the point where you're just like, I'm done. This is it. And so he just happens to take it to a very extreme.
For the audience members at home, can you give like a definition of torture porn in the sense of like it's not actual nudity and stuff like that? Like how it fits in the horror genre, I guess. Yeah,
with torture porn, when you hear the word porn, people automatically assume that there's nudity and sex and all that. In most cases, it's usually just a very violent way of someone being tortured. If you've seen Hostel, if you've seen the Saw franchise, you get a pretty good idea of what torture porn is. Anything with Eli Roth is normally labeled as torture porn because if you've seen these films, the violence is very graphic, but I personally like how the violence is handled, because to me, like with Hostel Part 2, for an example, the Elizabeth Bathory kill, as I call it, when the chick is hanging upside down, she is naked, but the way it's done, they took Elizabeth Bathory, who's like the infamous serial killer of all time, and took this chick and slashed her in the back, but the way she does it is very slow, very tormenting, kind of making you like suffer in the process. So when I think of torture porn, I think of Hostel films. Even Cannibal Holocaust is sometimes labeled as torture porn, and there's a lot of other films that are labeled, but it normally has nothing to do with just nudity. It's the way that they're filming the person being killed.
Correct, yeah. And okay, so you've seen Cannibal Holocaust.
I've seen it.
Okay, so I have a couple audience members kind of debating the artistic value of Cannibal Holocaust. And I know for me that's one of my favorite movies. Like the way it's shot and done, it's like the narrative goes from the kind of generic, you think these kids, going through the jungle, they're going to be the victims. And as it progresses, because you're watching it as a found footage, it's one of the first found footage movies in that sense, that these kids that go through the jungle, that people are watching this footage of them, you think they're the victims the whole time. And then as the movie progresses, you have one of the people who are watching the found footage go and look at this tribe of cannibals, as they're called, and he lives with them, and it's one of the most beautiful sequences because he just kind of immerses himself in their culture and what they do. And then you finish the rest of the found footage and realize that the kids themselves that you think are the victims were actually raping and murdering and taking advantage of the cannibals, which was what forced them to actually eat the kids. Would you agree with that? Like,
Yes,
it's kind
I
of given
would.
more artistic form. What are your thoughts on it?
With Cannibal Holocaust, what most people kind of need to know about the movie real quick is that the only real scenes in this film were the animal killings, because this movie was taken to court because the director almost went to prison for it being too realistic. As Freddy said, you slowly start to realize that the people that they're making look like the victims are not the victims. They are like the journalists that go around and kind of create chaos in order to make their documentary more interesting. So I think personally, the way that the director approached it, and just by scene, like even the way he kills the journalist off, is done in a sense where I don't know if the word sympathy can be used here, but you kind of side with the cannibals on how they're doing the killings, which are graphic, but I pretty much agree with everything you said on it. But I like the way the movie was filmed and the way it was done for being found footage.
Yeah, and like I said, it's one of the first found footage movies you really get from back in the day. That was 70s, right?
Yeah,
very
yeah.
grindhouse. And like I said, it's Ruggero Deodato, I believe, he's an Italian filmmaker. He's got that style too. Like the way he shoots it, even for like a found footage movie, it's just really beautiful looking. And the score, the music behind it is what really got to me. So that's what really got me into that one.
So
But
hopefully this movie gets picked up and everybody can, watch it and
Yeah,
enjoy
it
it and
sounds
get
like
their
a cool
own
movie.
opinion on it. So
definitely.
our next film is from the first-time Polish director, and bear with me on this, Agnieszka Sędzmińska, called The Lure. The Lure is about two flesh-eating mermaids named Silver and Golden who surface in Warsaw and begin working at a disco strip club. And to top it all off, the film is a musical. From what I've been hearing, The Lure itself is a beautifully put together movie full of great musical numbers, lots of gore, and for all our lovers of female horror, it's very much a matriarchal narrative with all the struggles and rivalries between women. Most of the men in this film are idiots, playthings, or food. So Freddy, are you an idiot, plaything, or food?
I'm definitely food. I'm a big guy. There's a lot of me to eat. So I'll kind of go with that one. I'm really psyched about this one a lot. Like you said, it's more of it seems like the men take a backseat to this movie, which I'm totally down with. Just it's got so much weird stuff in it from what I've heard. I've heard one of the things that coming out of Sundance people are talking about is the ending. With the first two acts, it's pretty structured and pretty crazy because it's just stuff you haven't seen before, really. But by the third act, you're just kind of left speechless, wondering what the hell just happened. But that's one of the things I love about horror movies like that is it just keeps you pondering and you'll keep talking about it forever and ever.
Yeah.
There's constant conversations that come up with that. The other thing I really liked about it, you talking about it being a musical, it's got to have a really weird color palette. That's some of my favorite musicals. Like you look at one of our favorites, Devil's Carnival. The color palette on that is awesome, and it actually won a special jury award for unique vision design due to kind of the 80s aesthetic with like the Miami Vice colors and all the neons and stuff. So it's got like a real gritty 80s feel to it, which I'm always down with. 80s is my favorite time period, obviously by my 80s Alice Cooper shirt here. But so I'm really psyched for this one. What are you thinking?
I'm into musicals like hardcore, from Rocky Horror Picture Show, Cry Baby, Repo the Genetic Opera. So when I was reading on this film and actually found the trailer for it, I don't know if you watched it or not.
I did.
Like when I was watching it, I was just kind of like trying to figure out what exactly what was I watching, but at the same time it was kind of luring me in because they said musical, and then you got flesh eating mermaids, which kind of remind me of Sirens in a way,
Yeah.
because musical singing, like flesh eating men. So I immediately think of Sirens, which is one of my favorite mythological creatures. So this movie actually caught my attention just by reading on it and watching the trailer alone. So I don't know. I'm excited for this one so far out of the ones we've been reading about.
Yeah, that one, the trailer for that one was pretty crazy too, because the director actually gives a little intro to it, like talking about where she came up from with like fairy tales and stuff like that. The thing that caught me visually that I love though was the scene where they're the two mermaids, and the makeup on them looks really cool. The tails
Yes.
look pretty crazy and stuff like that. And you actually have them in like a martini glass. Is that right?
Yeah, it looked like a
Yeah,
martini
and they're in
glass.
like a giant martini glass singing, and it sounds really like the title says, it lures you in.
Yeah.
That's yeah, we actually got some
There you go.
pictures right there. The tail, like, I'm a sucker for monster effects. Like I said, 80s is my time period, so Tom Savini stuff, Rick Baker stuff especially, like this looks awesome. And this is from Poland too. So like
Yeah.
I don't personally know any like I guess makeup artists outside of the US and stuff like that, just because it's not some of the stuff I follow like crazy. You know, I'm Tom Savini, Rick Baker. So I'm really psyched to see like the look of them. And I know she talked about like they're not I think she put a jab at the Little Mermaid. She's like, they're not gonna be wearing bras, they're topless.
Yeah,
they're
they're
like they're
topless.
monsters. And there's a scene in the trailer you watch where they have these vicious looking teeth.
Yes.
And
I
it
saw
looks
that.
so epic. And she's got like meat and nasty stuff coming out of her mouth. Oh, it just looks awesome.
See, I like the gore factor on that part because with those teeth, there's no way it's like little nibbles here or there. Oh no, there's going to be flesh,
Yeah, they're taking huge chunks
rip,
out of people.
chunks everywhere. Well, men specifically.
Body parts everywhere.
Yeah.
That's exactly. We're the meat. We're the food. What'd you think of the music that they showed in the trailer a little bit?
It caught my attention. Like most movies I listen to, the first thing I listen for is the music in any kind of film, especially when it comes to musicals. I found it sort of interesting, kind of like you were saying, it kind of lures you in. So it's like really weird. You're not really used to seeing this in the horror genre specifically. You're not really used to seeing this type of films. So like it got my attention, but like I don't really know what to think like otherwise than that, other than I watched the trailer like 5 times because it kept like wanting to pay attention to every little detail and everything else, but I kept focusing on their teeth more than anything.
Yeah, you just want to see them eat some dudes,
I just
right?
wanted to see them eat somebody.
You know, with the music too, what really got me, it reminded me a lot of Devil's Carnival, but specifically Devil's Carnival Alleluia.
Yes.
Because it's supposed to represent heaven, so the music in there was like really esoteric and dreamy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so the music in this one that I saw in the trailer was kind of like, you know, like I said, it lured you in. It was very much more heavenly, but it's juxtaposed with this like crazy, insane mermaids eating people.
Yeah. It's like, oh, happy music, I'm going to devour you.
Exactly.
Which in itself is kind of creepy.
It also makes me think, so it's kind of set in the like sleazy 80s time period for this. So it makes me wonder, are we going to get like some crazy 80s musical moments?
I kind of hope so.
Like maybe some kind of Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes.
Like that would be kind of awesome. Do we know of any like history with like European horror musicals at all?
I honestly am not familiar with any. Like the only ones I'm aware of are the ones that are in the US that are pretty much mainstream or cult classics. Anything else besides that, I'm not familiar with.
Well, because I remember in the introduction of the trailer, the director talked about, she said, you know, she even said most of the horror musicals that come from America and stuff like that, she really wanted to push it like, this is from my land, this is my country, let me try it this way.
Yeah.
So I know that's going to be some interesting takes on it too, because I know she kept talking about how it's going to be more of fairy tale-esque and from like her culture and her perspective, especially pushing like the female's perspective on it, you know. And the two of them, like you said before, the two of them are fighting over a man, correct?
Yes.
And so I wonder how much the man is actually going to play into this, or if he's just a piece of meat, like literally.
I'm thinking he's a piece of meat.
Yeah, he's just going to get devoured at some point. So I don't know. It's really crazy. I love musicals too. Like I can name off a bunch of horror musicals. Like I said, Little Shop of Horrors, Devil's Carnival, Repogenic Opera, like you said. But I can't really think of anything that's come before this that would kind of be reminiscent.
I I'm not familiar, but you're just excited to see a woman devour into a man, right?
I really am. That's all I want in life.
Just watch a woman devour me.
And I hope they're all like super jockey jerks that we can just see devoured.
Oh yeah, the ones that you don't want any sympathy for. You're just like, eat them, just get it over with.
Well, they talk about them all being dumb idiots too, so I'm pretty sure that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah. When they said dumb idiots, the first thing I think of is some jock-like dude thinking like cocky, arrogant, and then some tiny chick takes him out with no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I like that.
Would you think? Okay, so with this movie coming out, do you think it will go into like push in the mainstream at all? Maybe.
I think it depends on the audience for it. Like,
because we've definitely gotten some weird stuff coming out this year.
There's so many weird things. It's like unbearably weird. But like when it comes to musicals, it really depends on the audience because like with like Repo Genetic Opera, for example, it like they try to get it mainstream, it wasn't working, and then now it's like a cult classic.
Yeah.
So this could happen to this film, or by chance it can like. It's so weird and so luring that everybody just ends up falling in love with it. So I think
it's a sleeper hit.
50-50. Depends.
I just don't know if it's going to translate well, but I can't wait for this movie. Like there was a movie on Netflix I think a while ago called Killer Mermaid, and I've wanted to see like a monstrous mermaid ever since that stupid Tom Hanks movie. What was Splash or whatever?
It was Splash.
Yeah, so I'm just like, all right, let's get some mermaids with some teeth, like tearing through everybody. You always kind of get like a little bit, like in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, you had like kind of monstrous mermaids. And I think it was the Peter Pan movie, which one of them had like some mermaids in it that were a little monstrous looking. But like the fact that we're going to see a mermaid literally jump out, sing, and eat a dude up. I can't wait for that, personally.
Yeah. Well, it's something like in a sense, like even though we've had previous movies, like you were saying, in this sense, this is, I think, will be the first time we actually see like the monstrous side of mermaids, because mermaids originally were not supposed to be these beautiful creatures that Disney made them out to be. They're supposed to be monstrous. They're supposed to be vicious. They're supposed to be brutal. So I think I like that that's what she's doing with this fairy tale, because not all fairy tales have happy endings, and not all fairy tales have like the happy-go-lucky characters that they're known for with mainstream films.
You know, someone in the chat was talking about how Repo Innocence was never really meant to be mainstream.
Yeah.
So what do you think her goal with this movie is? Like, just to get it, I think it could be mainstream over there.
Yeah, it is more
sadly, as sad as that is to say, I think it's going to be that same cult classic status here. I'm worried it's going to take some time to get over here too, though, because like it won the award for the vision and design, but is that enough to like get it over here with distribution and stuff like that? What distributor in America is going to pick that up is my question. Who are we going to get to deliver that over here?
Not very many. Like,
exactly.
Unless if they happen to be into those type of films, I think that'd be their only chance. Like the distributor themselves be like, oh wait, this kind of gets my attention, let's get it out there. Like that's the only thing I could think of.
True. Yeah, actually, you know what, I just got reminded from the chat, the Cabin in the Woods mermaid, that was the closest.
Yes!
That was the closest mermaid to this I ever seen.
The merman.
Actually, reading up on this movie and watching the trailer, I forgot about that when I remembered, because it's been so long since I've seen Cabin in the Woods. That was possibly one of my most excited moments, was seeing that damn merman climb across and eat off, just like blow hole and everything.
Yeah.
That was definitely a more monstrous looking one. That thing looked like his face was all stressed out.
That thing was a piranha alligator merman.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nasty looking. I felt like I was excited for the guy because he finally got his merman, but got the end of the merman.
Yeah, true.
He was so excited and then got devoured by it.
Okay, well, enough about mermaids. This next movie is what I really want to be talking about. Going even weirder and getting me even more excited is a film that had people walking out of the screening in disgust. So you know we're going to be the first people to watch this when it finally comes out. Swiss Army Man. If you're familiar with the title, then you've probably heard that weird doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. Swiss Army Man stars Daniel Radcliffe, aka Harry Potter, playing a corpse that has a constant erection and flatulates constantly. That's right, this movie has boners and farts. That's all we knew for a while until we started getting a synopsis that sounds like a messed up version of Castaway. Hank, a man lost on an island right when he's about to give up on life, discovers the aforementioned farting body and finds an unexpected answer as to why his life is worth living. He discovers that many elements of his body can help him survive and find a way back home. Hank is played by There Will Be Blood's Paul Dano and also star genre fave Mary Elizabeth Winstead from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This insanity is brought to us by Dan Kwan and Daniel Skynhart, collectively known as the Daniels. So I don't know about you, but I remember the first picture coming out, and I just saw a picture of Daniel Radcliffe with like he looked like he was a hobo in a box, and he's just sitting there smiling, and it says, "People walk out of Daniel Radcliffe's boner farting zombie movie."
Yeah.
And there's Daniel Radcliffe right there. Look, I love the look of it too, because that picture right there where he's laying down, it actually looks a little bit like the way they shot Horns with the lighting and everything. So like I said, it's Castaway, but instead of the ball, Wilson, it's a friggin' zombie with a boner that farts the whole movie. And the whole aspect that Paul Dano's character uses this body as a Swiss Army knife, a Swiss Army man, to survive this whole island is just insane. The moment I heard people were walking out of it, I was like, oh my God, this has got to be the greatest movie ever.
Yeah, because it has to be pretty out there in order for people just to be like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm walking out. Like,
yeah, exactly. And so the thing I really love too is like Daniel Radcliffe's career after Harry Potter is just so weird. It is. Like I love Alejandro Aja. He did Piranha 3D, which is just stupid, idiotic fun. And then he did Horns, which that was like, for me, that was a beautifully done, awesome, like, love story with, a lot of horror elements. And Daniel Radcliffe plays the main character, Iggy. And he's got an American accent. He's a raging alcoholic. He's just crazy in that. And now he's a boner zombie who farts the whole movie.
Harry Potter to boners.
Exactly. So the other thing, too, I thought was cool was I've heard a lot about the Daniels, as they're called, and I looked them up, and they did a lot of short films. I haven't checked out too many of the short films, but they're pretty damn funny. The other thing that they came from, though, was the Funny or Die shorts. Mm-hmm. And most interestingly, now, I'm a huge Adult Swim fan, so they came from doing a couple episodes of Children's Hospital, which is that take on, like, General Hospital, but the main doctor is a clown face idiot, and there's like a crazy Jewish guy. There's all kinds of weird stuff. So it's seeing them go from that to the concept of this doesn't seem that far fetched to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen that show, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird trailers and like terrible dialogue and everything. One of the doctors constantly has blood all his gown and everything. It's awesome. But another one, actually one of the guys on chat just mentioned, it's like a messed up Weekend at Bernie's.
Ah, yes. That would be a very good comparison. I love that movie too.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's is pretty great. I don't know. It's just, this movie seems so crazy. I can't wait for this thing. The other thing I heard too from Sundance is, so him being a Swiss Army man, him being used to, I guess, help Hank survive the island, they're the most ridiculous, insane ways to help him survive, and none of it should work when someone describes it to you.
Yeah.
But you just simply have to watch it, because when you see it, you're like, wow, that worked weirdly enough. Like, how did that work? That shouldn't work that way. So I was really psyched for this one. It actually won a directing award in the domestic U.S. film category. So a lot of people were also like, so this movie that everyone walked out of that shouldn't make any sense whatsoever won an award for directing.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty psyched to see what these guys do next after that.
Do you think this movie's like a little too weird, or do you think it will eventually make sense, or actually does make sense in just a really weird way?
I honestly can't even say at this point. Like, I think it's gonna work because of the aesthetic and the look and everything. It's gonna be really interesting to people, but the concept is gonna just throw so many people off. I have a feeling this movie is gonna get trashed from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that a movie coming out with like boners and farting zombies and everything is gonna it's gonna raise some eyebrows. Like, and I think what's really gonna help push it, honestly, is like this weekend's release of Deadpool, because that's already like crazy weird stuff pushing the envelope already. This one's gonna be even crazier. So I think we're gonna get like a lot of mothers groups and like a lot of kids who are like, oh my God, I can see another movie with Harry Potter in it.
Yeah.
They're gonna freak out.
yeah, the mothers are not totally going to approve of this film. But like that happens with a lot of films, especially when it comes to the horror genre. You got people screaming, "Oh, this is not appropriate." Well, horror is not really meant for children to begin with. And so like with this film, I don't like, besides the boner, from what I read on it, it doesn't seem like it has a whole lot of anything else but boners. Like that's like the only thing, like no nudity or anything of that sort that I know of. But like then again, yeah, let's go ahead and just bring your children to watch a zombie with a boner.
Well, it's like Nickelodeon. He farts the whole movie.
Yeah.
So it's like a Nickelodeon movie at that point.
Yeah.
My other question is, so I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, you know, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Death Proof, but the last time I saw her in a horror film was the god-awful prequel remake, whatever the hell you want to call it, of The Thing. John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors, writers of all time, and that movie just made me sad and cry.
I never watched it.
You have been saved from everything bad in the world thanks to that. It was literally like they took John Carpenter's original movie, said it's a prequel, but followed it beat by beat, kill for kill, in a remake prequel. And the worst part is everyone in the facility speaks English except for the one guy that survives, goes to the American facility, and for some reason he's the only one that doesn't speak English. So it's just perfectly fits. So she was cool in the movie, but it was just such a god-awful movie.
I think the last film I saw her in was it Part 3, Final Destination?
Oh, that's right.
That was, I think, the last horror film that I
Yeah.
saw her in.
Yeah, because she's in a bunch of stuff, especially genre stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm also like wondering, I guess maybe it's flashbacks. Where does she fit in this movie? Because if it's Paul Dano stuck on an island with the corpse and he's surviving the island, and supposedly he's the only person on the island, the only person he's seen forever, where does she fit? Is it like flashbacks? Maybe like a relationship? Maybe she's the girl he has to go back to? Like, I'm just wondering where she's going to fit in this movie. Like, I've seen other cast members in the movie, but I feel like this is kind of like as stupid as this is going to sound, I feel like this is the I Am Legend of goofy horror comedies in that sense.
Yeah. Oh, and with John Carpenter's, wasn't his movie a remake? So wouldn't that make it a remake of a remake?
It's weird because so John Carpenter's remake is his thing is a remake of the Howard Hawkins original, but his concept was completely changed because he had Rob Bottin, like the special effects guru extraordinaire. He made the thing to where it could be anything or anyone. It could turn into anything. Anything it touches, it could transform into that. So the Thing prequel remake was a reimagining or direct connection, I still can't tell because it makes no sense, to John Carpenter's movie as opposed to Howard Hawks' movie, because like I said, the ending of the Thing prequel remake leads right into the beginning of John Carpenter's movie. John Carpenter's movie starts with two Swedish guys in a helicopter shooting at a dog, and they're trying to kill it. They make it to the American base in Antarctica, and the American guys, they're freaking out because the Swedish guys are trying to shoot down this dog, accidentally hit one of the American guys, and so they fire back, and the Swedish guys are dead. But what they're trying to say, the Swedish guys are like, that dog's a monster, don't trust it. But none of the American guys speak Swedish, of course.
Of course.
The stupid thing I thought, though, was in the prequel, all of the characters in the Swedish base speak English, except for the two that survive. Perfectly right then and there. The two that survive are the only ones that don't speak English whatsoever. So it's just kind of weird to me. It's like, why? I don't know, but that movie is so bad. Anyways, Swiss Army Man is going to be awesome. That's all I care about at this point.
All right, so something I'm not totally excited about, so I'm ready for the hate. The next Sunday entrance is one of the biggest films with the most famous cast at the festival in the horror genre, Rob Zombie's long-in-production film, 31. The premise is pretty simple. 5 carnies are abducted and forced to enter a survival game. Conceptualizing his scenario from the statistic that Halloween is the day that most people go missing, the carnies enter this murder world. headed by Father Murder, who unleashes a horde of killer clowns within the maze of Murder World to pick off the carnies one by one. The film boasts a great cast of zombies' usual actors, with Sherry Moo Zombie leading the carnies and the slew of killer clowns, Elizabeth Daily as Sexhead, Richard Brake as Doomhead, and we also have Malcolm McDowell as Father Murder, and returning zombie actors Meg Foster and Jeff Daniel Phillips.
So personally, I got to start off with, and I think I told you not too long ago, E.G. Daily is my celebrity crush, which is really weird because she's like an 80s celebrity. But I remember seeing Better Off Dead, John Cusack's comedy weird movie forever ago, and she pops into their like prom dance as the singer. And E.G. Daily is a really good singer too, and she just rocks it amazingly. And at that moment, I was like, oh my God, she's singing to me. So, and then consecutively, I just love watching 80s slashers, supernatural movies, and she appeared in a lot of them. Like one of my favorites was Bad Dreams, which featured Dan from Reanimator, and she was like, it was this asylum full of kids that were all kind of plagued by these nightmares, that kind of a Freddy scenario where they all thought it was going to come and kill them. They found out the doctor was actually like poisoning them with pills, and he was the one that was actually killing them. So it's a really cool psychological movie, and she plays like this sweet, innocent girl in that movie. So I've always loved her. It was really, really weird and tough for me to watch her in Devil's Rejects because she plays the Princess Leia prostitute that has sex with Bill Moseley. And so, you know, boyhood crush me is sitting there horrified, like, oh my God, she is a crazed hooker hillbilly. What happened to you?
Rob Zombie.
Exactly. So I'm like sitting here traumatized. And then, you know, I like zombies movies. I think all of them have some degree of artistic value, and the look especially. And while not all the characters are very fleshed out and the dialogue's not that great, I usually have a little bit of fun with them. But the moment they said Elizabeth Daily is Sexhead, part of me was like, dear God, don't do this to me again. But another part of me was like, she's Sexhead. Maybe that's cool. I don't know. I'm so conflicted by this. So it's just so crazy. But like I said, I love Rob Zombie. House of Thousand Corpses, a lot of people complain it's a giant music video. I'm obviously a huge rocker. I love Rob Zombie's music. So I was just like, okay, it's a one long music video with really weird crap in it and a bunch of horror actors like Bill Moseley, and you get Sid Haig. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sid Haig I've known from like George Lucas's THX 1138. So I love that dude's career. You get Karen Black, which if you guys don't know Karen Black, she goes back to like Tobe Hooper's remake of Invaders from Mars. You have Trilogy of Terror, where she does like 3 different tales of like horror. It's pretty awesome. So I've always like loved following his work because he takes those actors I love from like the 80s and 70s and throws them in these like really forefront kind of roles. I will say, Devil's Rejects, I thought a lot of people call it like his Godfather movie because it really humanizes his characters. I will say it's probably his best rounded film.
I agree with that.
I've also seen Haunted World of El Super Beasto, which is just a goofy, stupid cartoon. And I'm one of the few people, I feel like I loved Lords of Salem for the fact that it was basically him trying to do a Dario Argento movie. It was that weird Italian cinema that no one thought Zombie was ever capable of. The problem was he tried to mix weird Italian cinema with Rob Zombie. So I liked it. And because of that, I wanted to see what happens with this next one. I've been waiting for it. I love the concept, killer clowns and everything. But I know you have such hate for this man, Ash. What can you tell me?
I don't hate Rob Zombie. I happen to like him. I just don't like his movies. Devil's Rejects is probably the only one I tolerated the most. Like, it took me a while to adjust to House of Thousand Corpse. It took me a while to adjust to Devil's Rejects. I didn't even bother with Lords of Salem because his wife was the focal point. And don't get me wrong, I like her, but her as a character in his films makes me want to do horrible things. So, like, I it's hard to explain in a sense. Like for instance, the Halloween movies made me so angry. Like, I wanted to write him a personal letter telling him that he just butchered a classic because he took, like, the only good thing I can say about the Halloween films with his Halloween film is that he gave Michael a backstory. So we kind of got some insight on Michael. I did like
that a lot. That was my, and I'm so polarized on the Halloween movies because as a young person, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, this is cool. We're finally seeing John Carpenter's The Shape given form. As I come to appreciate the Halloween movies originals more, it's like The Shape never needed a backstory. So my thing is like, I don't hate them, I don't love them. Halloween 1, I think it's okay. It's weird because it's a retread, but it's also like his own thing. The thing though that I found a lot of people like agree on is Halloween 2 as its own movie is a pretty solid movie as itself.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think. Well, I mean, what do you think about Halloween 2? You probably hate it.
I hated it. But like if you pretend like it's not a remake and pretend that it's not based off someone else's characters.
It's a good old boy with a mask.
Everything like
and
that, then it could be decent. But again, his wife kind of ruined it for me because of the whole ghost thing and her talking, and I'm just like, no, we can do without these scenes.
That was so crazy though, man. I love
it.
the whole like dinner scene where it's like all the pumpkin face dudes just kind of sitting there over Laurie Strode's body, and they're like, what do we have to do to get Boo back? And I was like, yes, what do we have to do to get Boo back? Let's see it, man. I saw that in theater too.
Oh god, no.
It was I mean, I liked it. Like I said, I like the aesthetic of his movies. As big of a John Carpenter fan as I am, and I am one of the hugest John Carpenter fans. It took me forever to truly appreciate the original Halloween. It was when I finally saw Michael Myers as The Shape, and the way that movie was shot and done. It is the formula for almost every slasher movie following it. So like, I really appreciate it. You know, I like his takes on the Halloween movies as their own thing. It's really weird because like they're two directors I really like. Obviously Carpenter is a superior director, but and then I will say, you were talking about how his wife bothers you a lot, and that's why you didn't even bother Lords of Salem. Mm-hmm. She reined it in Lords of Salem. That I was so surprised because I went in thinking, oh god, okay, I like her, okay, but she's gonna be this thing. No, she was like, you watched a tortured mother in a sense. I guess mother of all, as the mother of witches in that movie, kind of go through hell and become this like lose all humanity and like care. You know, it was really cool. Though couple things I would say about Lords of Salem where there were some parts where I was like, why did you film that? Like there's a whole scene with masturbating priests, and I was like, oh, we're getting into that territory again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm pretty psyched for 31. It's been a long road for this movie. He started off with a Kickstarter, which most people were like, you piece of crap, you have all this money, Mr. Rockstar. Why do you want our money to make a movie? And in the end, he made some money from it, but he put up the rest of the money himself. And the path for this movie got even worse because he cut it down 3 times from what he had to make it a rated R with the MPA, because it was NC-17 3 times he submitted it. So he finally got it down to rated R. That's what we're gonna get in theaters, if we even get it in wide release, because Lords of Salem didn't even get a real wide release. Yeah. He has promised that when it goes to home video, we will get a director's cut. And I kind of feel like with you and me, this movie has got a lot of mixed reviews. I mean, I think when we see it, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I love about Rob Zombie, and it's like, as I went back before with, I guess, The Lure, when I said a lot of great horror movies get you guessing and talking about it for a long time. Rob Zombie movies, I feel like, are the equivalent to a horror movie bar fight. You get so many people who are just like, all right, I hate his stuff. This is why. I love his stuff. This is why. And so that's kind of what I love about his movies. 31, like, it's just killer clowns, man.
And I hate clowns. Like,
I love clowns. I love killer clowns.
And like with him, like with his films, like the reason why I have a feeling I may not like this one is because the way he does with the characters, like you say killer clowns, so you're thinking scary killer clowns, and then in reality we're probably going to get some character that we've seen before running around just slashing people, laughing, and then continue on their way, just kind of like how his wife is. So like I like the idea of the movie. I just want to see the execution of it, because I'm not a huge fan of his films. I'm not going in automatically judging it, because I try to stay open-minded with his films, or maybe it'll eventually grow on me. But I felt like, especially after reading the reviews on it, so many people were mixed. They said that the whole plot kind of just went everywhere, and like the dialogue went everywhere. And I'm like, obviously you haven't seen the rest of his films because they all do that.
They kind of ramble on.
They kind of end up going everywhere. I think Devil's Rejects was probably one of the few that
it was the most really solid in dialogue and character, and that's the other thing too. Is a lot of people are complaining there's little to no dialogue or character in this movie, but I feel like it's just a straight up grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
Another thing that I know you probably agree on, and a lot of people in chat are talking about. I actually agree on this too. The stupid sexy baby voice Sherry Moon Zombie does. I guess it works for Baby in House of Thousand Corpses. But she carries that voice in a couple other things. One of them was the Haunted World of El Super Beasto, which was the cartoon he made, which is just weird. I'll watch it and I'm like, okay, this is kind of entertaining. There's a bunch of different horror characters in it, but her voice just like it's not my jam.
It's irritating.
Yeah. I don't really see a point to it.
It's like when a girl tries to talk with a baby voice, like trying to be all cute and sexy, talking in a certain way. Like that's how her voice comes off to me. Like she's trying too hard, I guess maybe is what I'm looking for. Like, because I've heard her in interviews and how she normally talks. She doesn't really sound that way. And then like every character she ever plays,
more tame too.
She has that annoying shrieking voice that just makes you want to go psycho on her. Or at least I do.
True. Actually, one of the listeners told us about to just go watch Vulgar as a palate cleanser if you hate clowns. Because have you ever heard of Vulgar?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Kevin Smith made a couple of movies on the side that were just like Scott Mosier and the crew, like without Kevin. Just made some weird movies. One of them was Vulgar, which was a movie about their mascot, Vulgar the Clown, for VSQ Studios. And it was the guy, Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante from Clerks. He's a birthday clown. He decides one day, I'm going to do adult parties where I'm going to go in as a joke as a sexy stripper clown. Well, then he gets raped by a bunch of hillbillies that find him. So if you hate clowns, that's the movie for you.
Kind of like Deliverance.
Yeah.
With clowns.
True. Well, I feel like it's a good segue. I actually kind of like Vulgar because it's just really weird. But Kevin Smith, finally, another big name that is shakenly splashed in the horror scene is Kevin. And his new film is Yoga Hosers. Yoga Hosers is about two Canadian convenience store clerks named Colleen Collette and Colleen McKenzie, who discover an evil force underneath their convenience store as little Nazi bratwursts called Baratzis, which begin to invade their town, and it's up to the Colleens to stop them and their evil master living underneath the store. He first came into the genre with his thriller action film Red State, which while it has its faults and has been considered a decently solid film, then he went into the utmost obscure with the strange pseudo-torture comedy film Tusk. While some people can defend Red State, Tusk is a whole other beast entirely. It starts off with a decently creepy horror film and then descends in an insane surreal comedy. The best way I can put it is it just gets really, really weird. Being a huge Kevin Smith fan myself, I love it for all its insanity, but I have no way of defending the film other than I know how insane and weird it gets, and I love it. It's just something we haven't seen before, and that's why I love Tusk. Spinning off from Tusk is what Smith calls his True North trilogy, which is yoga, which second in the trilogy is Yoga Hosers. Mm-hmm. So, what do you have to say about Yoga Hosers?
I don't even know where to start on that one. They didn't really have a trailer for it.
He's been talking about it for so long.
And so I watched the little, you know how they give you like the little pieces and clips? And so I got to watch the little piece where it has Johnny Depp's daughter, and then it has Kevin's daughter talking to the hot boy that comes in, and them talking about the party.
Everything here at the A to Z is good.
The accent's so bad.
Well, that's the thing that a lot of people have been complaining about is the accents for this movie are so god-awful terrible. And like, I kind of get it, but the thing I know Kevin Smith is pulling from is the SCTV shows from Canada and Strange Brew with Bob and Doug McKenzie, Rick Moranis, as well as, his love for weird Canadian melodrama like Degrassi, which I'm not gonna lie, once Jane Silent Bob went Degrassi, I watched Degrassi and I was just kind of like hooked for a little bit and I'm like, oh God, what am I doing?
I've been guilty of watching it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's weird because if you watch Strange Brew, they have the worst fake Canadian accents. And the thing a lot of people have been talking about is Kevin Smith is trying to do that with American actors as opposed to Strange Brew used Canadian actors who were enforcing the stereotype. Yeah. So it's a little weird. Does he have the right to do that? But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all for comedy in a sense. I mean, what do you think on that?
I think it depends on the person. I'm not easily offended by things. If I
Me
see
neither,
someone
yeah.
make fun of something, I know it's like in good spirits, unless if it's actually intentionally supposed to be mean. But like with Kevin Smith, if you've seen his films,
He's just goofy stupidity
if you're
sometimes.
easily offended, then don't watch his films. Like, I think it's all in like good fun and everything. And I guess maybe he picked Americans to do it because, stereotypes. So I guess maybe he found it would be more amusing to have an American try to do a very bad accent.
Of course, yeah. Well, and his thing is this is the closest to a kid's film he's gonna do. So, first of all, you got little Nazi bratwurst called Bratzies, and that's insane right there. But the evil mastermind living underneath the convenience store, I've heard that his background is he is a Nazi himself who wants to lash out all the critics because he failed out of art school, like a certain Hitler. And so it's also weird because a lot of critics are like, is Kevin Smith targeting me right now with this? He's going to send little Bratzies to go up my butt and eat me? Because that's what they do in the movie.
Maybe.
And so I'm totally down for that just because I'm like, this sounds stupid crazy.
Yeah. During the when they showed the premiere for the film, Kevin Smith had an exclusive comic book that he wrote, and I forgot the name of the illustrator. Oh, there it is. That helps me.
You hosers.
Only the audience had an exclusive look at it and got a copy of the comic book. The illustrations by Jeff Quigley, and it was written by Kevin Smith himself, and it's supposed to be kind of like a prequel how the girls met and became friends before all
Right.
this has happened.
I love how it says a secret origin. It's so stupid. Well, man, there's just so much to love about this movie for me because, like I said, Tusk, if you're a horror fan, it's not a good movie.
I didn't bother watching it.
I went and saw it in theaters opening night, and I went dressed as Silent Bob. I had my I Don't Want to Die in Canada shirt. And for the first half, it's like, oh, this is really creepy. It's like got like a little morality tale to it. And then Johnny Depp comes in as Guy Lapointe, and he talks for like what seemed like 20 minutes, and then it just goes bonkers from there.
Of course.
And so Guy Lapointe, he's one of the weirdest things that come out of Kevin Smith's catalog of characters. He's a failed French-Canadian detective, and when Johnny Depp portrayed him, he put on a giant nose prosthetic. And the funny thing is, apparently Johnny Depp had his makeup artist make it look like a dick. That was his whole thing. This wasn't Kevin, this was Johnny Depp said this. And he put a little blue vein on the side.
Nice.
And because Johnny Depp's just weird like that.
He's my favorite actor, so
Well, yeah, and there you go.
it pleases me that he likes to be weird even when someone's not telling him to.
Don't recognize him at all in this movie. Like the first time you see him, especially. I will say, I'm a huge fan of makeup effects and stuff like that. Robert Kurtzman, who has been in the industry forever, K&B Effects Group, if you guys don't know about that, they've won awards like Oscars like crazy. That's where Greg Nicotero came from, Howard Berger. The three of them, Howard Berger, Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, K&B Effects Group, they did pretty much every single movie monster in the 80s. The Evil Dead trilogy, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, all the effects were them. You have like the Reanimator movies. If it was like an 80s crazy monster, they did it. And so that's one of the things I love about with Tusk and Yoga Hosers. All the effects are done by Robert Kurtzman. He's designed them all. He's put them on. The problem is with Guy Lapointe, his makeup is done by someone else. And I don't know who this guy is, but it just doesn't hold up to par with Robert Kurtzman's stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess it's supposed to be more comedic and stuff like that, but I don't know. For me, it doesn't bother me. I would understand certain horror fans and like fans watching stuff. They're like, oh, this is just god awful. This is terrible. But I love the fact that Guy Lapointe is going into Yoga Hosers because the Colleens, which is played by Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp, and Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter, they were in a scene together in Tusk for like a brief moment on accident, actually. It was supposed to be just Harley Quinn Smith there. Johnny Depp had his daughter on set to watch him, because Harley Quinn and Lily Rose have been friends since like kindergarten or whatever. And they're like, oh, let's put them both in a convenience store outfit. Kevin Smith even talks about he like would watch that scene from Tusk over and over and over again, and his wife was one who finally said, Jesus, do you not understand why you like this scene? He goes, no, why? And he goes, because your daughter and her best friend are clerks. And he's like, oh my God, I've made female clerks. And so that's where they came from, and Yoga Hosers was birthed from that. And that's what I love is the fact that it's female clerks versus Nazis.
Yeah. And you were talking about the makeup earlier for this. Jason Mewes, which is his like longtime friend.
Of course, yeah, Jay.
He was supposed to be the monsters in this film, but he's claustrophobic, and so the prosthetics got like to where he couldn't handle them. So Kevin Smith himself is the one wearing all the makeup.
Yeah, he's all the little Bratzies.
Yeah.
And I love that. There's actually a little picture I think you can look up online where there's a whole box of them. And they're just like little Kevin Smith's like giving you the finger and like running around and stuff like that. The other thing I love too is, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, huge horror fan. This is a great crossover for me. Hollywood Babylon is his podcast that he does with Ralph Garman. And Ralph Garman's a comedian who's mostly done like voiceover work for like Family Guy and stuff like that. He was Mark Wahlberg's dad in Ted. If you watch Hollywood Babylon, the whole concept is each segment that they do, he's doing voices like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Al Pacino. I wasn't Al Pacino, whatever. But he does all those voices. So apparently he's one that plays the Nazi scientist. It was supposed to be originally Michael Parks, who was the main character in Tusk. And if you watch Red State, he was the preacher. And that was one of the best parts of Red State was,
he was
Michael Parks.
Fantastic in that movie.
I was sad to see Michael Parks go because apparently he just was too sick to meet the schedule. Because I actually met Michael Parks, I guess 2 years now at Texas Frightmare Weekend. He was telling me, he's like, yeah, me and Kevin got a couple other movies coming up, 3 or 4, I think. And I was like, oh my God, how many you got coming? So I was really excited to see him. It's sad to see him leave, but Ralph Garman, if you watch Hollywood Babylon, he does like these Nazi accents, and they're the funniest damn thing in the world. Yeah. So I can't wait to see. I hope they give him some prosthetics too. Like I know Kurtzman sometimes will just go crazy with stuff, and that's mostly what I want to see is like some crazy Kurtzman monsters in a Kevin Smith world.
Do we have a release date on this film?
No, that's the thing. He's been making it forever. At this point, Kevin, honestly, he's just like smoking weed and making weird movies. And he
obviously
Tusk just happened, then it was just released. Yoga Hosers just happened, is just released. He's supposed to do another Mallrats, like Mallrats 2 and Clerks 3, but in that time period, like I said before, he's got the True North trilogy.
Yeah.
What the third movie is really weird. It's called Moose Jaws, and everyone at home, it's exactly what you think it is. It's Jaws, the shark, but instead of a shark, it's a moose, because they're in Canada. So apparently the Colleens come back to fight the moose. Guy Lapointe comes back to fight the moose. Genesis Rodriguez, the girlfriend of Justin Long's character in Tusk, comes back to fight the moose. The best part, Jay and Silent Bob are back. Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith are reprising their roles as Jay and Silent Bob to fight this killer moose. And supposedly, most of the characters in this movie die and are eaten by the moose.
Of course. I was reading about that one too, because when I was looking into this movie, it was talking about the trilogy. So I was like, wait, what trilogy? Because I didn't watch Tusk. I haven't actually had the chance to watch it. And so when it said Moose meets Jaws, and I love Jaws, so I was like, okay, this one catches my attention because Jaws and Moose, like, they're known for being aggressive and mean and like not a creature you want to approach. So I'm like the mental images I'm getting of this thing are enough to make me like, I would totally go watch that one.
Exactly. Well, I know, and someone in chat was actually asking when the production on Moose Jaws was starting, and I think it kind of already has, because the way Kevin Smith is doing movies lately, he's announcing them, he gets cast together, and they just start filming. I know they're in the pre-production stages at least, because the script's pretty much already done. He says he actually said at the premiere of Yoga Hosers at Sundance that what he's going to do for the ending is he's going to take the monster from Tusk, Justin Long's character, and it's going to fight the moose from Moose Jaws.
Oh, God.
I can't wait for that. Because, first of all, the monster from Tusk looks really weird. I'm not going to say it's the best thing ever, but it's stupid. It's stupid looking. I love it. It's going to fight a giant moose.
I'm looking forward to both of those movies.
I mean, it's Kevin.
It's Kevin Smith. You either love him or hate him, I think.
Same with Rob.
Yeah. So since we all know most of the horror genre does go straight to video, so every week we'll be bringing you our top picks so you can horror at home. So Freddy, what do you have for us this week?
Okay, so this week I thought we'd take a look at what Scream Factory has put out for us. Recently they released Hellions by the director of Pontypool, Bruce McDonald. Hellions centers around a young girl who discovers she is pregnant and is left home alone on Halloween night to contemplate what to do with her life when a group of malicious-looking kids begin to torment her. We recently caught this on Netflix, which you can as well go purchase at screamfactory.com. I am so sorry, Ash, for making you watch this movie because
I'm not forgiving you.
oh god,
Ever. Not forgiving.
this is one of those audience. This is one of those kind of blind buy things here because I was just like, oh, Scream Factory put out a new movie and it's by Bruce McDonald. Pontypool's supposed to be really cool. Then I made Ash watch it, and 20 minutes later, like maybe, were you even halfway into the movie before you started telling me?
No,
off?
I waited until, like, I was downloading Messenger on my phone. For people who don't know, I don't use Facebook mobile because it infuriates me. I downloaded Messenger just so I could chew him out for making me watch this film. Literally after it was done, I'm at a friend's house watching this movie. She rented it. I told her I needed to give her $6 back because I felt so horrible that she rented this movie. As she went and takes a shower, she could hear me yelling while I'm watching the film. And I was like, that's it. I'm downloading Messenger and I am totally messaging Freddy right now because I just dropped IQ points watching this movie.
Netflix though. You didn't have to rent
her
it.
Netflix wasn't, we couldn't get it to work.
Oh god, I'm horrible.
And I was like, okay, well, I'll just go home and watch it. No, I want to watch it with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Our friendship just ended because I just made you watch this horrible movie. I can't forgive you.
So I didn't completely hate it. Okay, it's really weird. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and I've wanted to see it for so long. A little history with myself, actually, in this movie. There was a contest when it was first in production to actually put your own film in the movie because there's a scene where main character is at home watching television on Halloween night, and she's watching a horror movie, and there's close up of the screen, and your movie could be on there. So I was like so excited because I had never seen Pontypool at that point, but I knew Bruce McDonald was a huge hit at Sundance with Pontypool, and I was like, okay, this movie sounds like a really cool flick. You know, a bunch of like crazy little monsters come out and torture this girl on Halloween, my kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I went and shot this weird movie where it's basically like giant bag eating a dude. Hope it was just really weird. Needless to say, I didn't finish it in time and it didn't get picked. As I'm watching this movie, I'm like, okay, this is decent, this is okay. And then I saw the film that got picked for it, and I was like, oh, that was all they wanted. But then I also thought about the movie itself after watching it, and I was like...
You saved yourself.
Huh? Yeah, exactly. Especially when you started telling me your thoughts on it, and I was like, well, I kind of like this. And I was just like, no, you don't. You die.
No.
I was like, well, okay, you got a point.
I was expecting it, like, when I read the description, I was thinking, like, The Strangers meets Trick or Treat. And so, like somewhere in between that. So when I started watching it, it kind of started off decent at first, and then I can't even explain what happened. Like it, and then like the effects and the lighting, and it just ruined the whole thing for me. And then the whole entire time, I'm just wanting her to die already, so that the movie would just end.
Okay, honestly, let's put it this way: rather than going too much into this movie, let's just kind of put it to the audience. You guys, it's on Netflix right now. It's called Hellions. It's by Bruce McDonald. You guys can go home and watch it. It's on Netflix. If you got Netflix, it's out from Scream Factory right now. You guys decide. Is it a piece of junk or is it kind of decently okay? So, also from Scream Factory, I want to point out, Valentine's Day is coming up. This Valentine's Day, Scream Factory will be hosting on their site the Love is in the Scare Marathon starting at 12 p.m. with 12 hours of free Scream Factory releases, including one of my personal favorites that I just mentioned earlier in the podcast, Class of 1984.
Well, Sundance certainly offered us a big haul of horror this year, and hopefully we have given you plenty of movies to watch out for. We hoped you've enjoyed this premiere episode of the Nerd Ninja Horror Show as much as we have talked about our favorite genre. And be sure to tune in every week so we can give you all the scary, spooky, gory, disturbing, bloody, and undead things the horror world has to offer. For Freddy, I am Ash Von Horror, and good night.